Everyone has moments in life they can't just stop thinking about. They can be embarrassing things, like that one time you face planted in front of a group of teenagers, or something amazing like the first time you hosted your family for the holidays. And on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, hosted by me, Keke Palmer, and presented by BMW, we know to savor the good memories and let go of the bad. And one thing everyone remembers fondly is their first time behind the wheel of a BMW. So come join me and BMW this summer as we explore pop culture moments and topics you just can't stop thinking about on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly minisode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth. This week we are talking Godzilla, some Film Fest faves, a 90s set slasher with a killer soundtrack, and a whole lot of abs.
Oh, the abs. I can't wait to talk to you about those abs.
The abs. Oh, the abs.
Okay, let's start off with Godzilla. I love me some Godzilla.
Okay. So last Thursday, Godzilla Singular Point, the Netflix animated series came out, and Steve and I watched it in 2 days, and it is phenomenal. I deserve an honorary quantum physics / theoretical physics degree after watching this show because it is so chock full of like ridiculous science that makes absolutely no sense, but the monster design is really cool. It's like a very different look at the monsters from Godzilla. So it kind of like stands on its own. So like Rodans that you know of from like Godzilla, they are pterosaurs, and like you see some of the designs of like Anguirus and Mothra. Like Mothra's not in it, but there's like some callbacks to that. So it's its own thing with callbacks to the original franchise or the original like Godzilla and the monsters. But basically there is a lot of weird theoretical interdimensional time shit going on, but these creatures are coming into our world. And the Godzilla in this one is very similar to the Godzilla from Shin Godzilla. So it's like really fucking bleak and really violent in terms of the destruction. Like it's not like oh fun. It's like, oh, this is actually very harrowing and like apocalyptic. Like it is the entire show is very much like end of the world apocalyptic vibes. Okay. And it's fucking bananas. And you don't have to be familiar with anything from Godzilla to really get it. There's a lot of Easter eggs and like callbacks for fans, but they're not necessary for you to know them, I think. For you to really enjoy the show. If you get like kind of like about sciencey stuff, this might not be for you, but you don't have to fully understand the science to enjoy it. It like feels like one of those things where it's like I don't think anyone fully gets what the hell they're talking about, but it looks cool and like you get what like at the end you like it all makes sense. So that is Godzilla Singular Point streaming on Netflix. It's incredible. The animation is really cool. The monster design is great. The characters are fun. There's an amazing little robot creature called Pilo 2, who is a really adorable AI who is represented as a Shiba Inu, a cartoon Shiba Inu. Oh. And it's very cute. And yeah,
I'm looking at this animation style, and I really dig it.
It's really, really cool. And like the way they designed Godzilla in this is really fascinating. Like in Shin Godzilla, he is in stages. He's shown in stages, and like he's like transforming in stages. And it is in this show too. It's
Listeners, there is a cat on Mary Beth's lap.
Just
appeared out of nowhere.
Hi, Zook. Hi, buddy. Hi. God, he was staring at me. I was like, why are you looking at me? I could feel his eyes on me. And I was like, I can't look at you. And then he just jumped on my lap. So anyway, it's just, he's trying to get to the microphone. The monster.
He has things to say.
But
he watched it too. And that was a tail in her face.
Is just in my face.
But cats in their butts.
The Godzilla design is really cool. He's scary. Like, he's scary looking. He's scary. Okay. I think it's scary.
I could be completely making this up because I haven't really watched it, but wasn't there another Godzilla anime on Netflix like a few years ago?
There were some movies, and they were bad. And they were not related to this. It's Godzilla, but it was like in the future on different planets, and it was weird, and it's not the same thing. They don't exist in the same universe. Those were terrible. Gotcha. I didn't even watch all of them. I watched the first one, I think, and I was like, this is annoying. And Steve watched all of it because he's a Godzilla completionist. But I just didn't.
Listen, she's trying to wrangle
there's a cat
with the
over
cat's
here,
tail.
too. Oh, my God, there's another cat.
They're swarming you. They're swarming you, Mary.
But yeah, so don't watch the Godzilla movies, animated movies. Those are terrible. Godzilla Singular Point is phenomenal.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah, so I was very excited. It was good. I was worried. Steve was very worried too. Okay, he is the big Godzilla. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, but he is the OG Godzilla fan in this household. So he was very excited about it. Okay, so you saw a 90s slasher or 90s set slasher with a killer soundtrack. I think I know what this is, but
I did.
Tell me more about this.
We're going to keep this Netflix vibe going. This is, as of right now, you can go watch it. It's Fear Street Part 1, 1994. This is a movie that should not work because it has to juggle a lot of balls. It has so many things that it's trying to do and needs to do because, this is the first in a 3-part movie series. They're going to come out each week and they're all interconnected. They tell one overarching story across different decades, 1994, 1978, and 1666. So somehow it's having to create a story or little threads that are going to be continued out in the next 2 movies. That's one thing it needs to do. 2, it needs to be a slasher. 3, it needs to introduce characters and have a cohesive storyline. Okay. 4, it needs to somehow create this mythology of Fear Street and the town that this takes place in, Shadyside. It has to somehow do all of this while also introducing new people to the idea of Fear Street. So there's so many things it has to do. And yet it's successful in every single one. I'm
so fucking excited to hear that because I was a Fear Street freak as a kid.
Were you?
As a Fear Street freak. And
see, I've never read them. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I've gone straight from Goosebumps to Stephen King, so I completely missed the more, interstitial type Christopher Pike or Fear Street and that kind of thing. So I don't know how loyal this is to those books. I don't know anything about it, but as someone that is just watching this as a movie, it really worked incredibly well. It opens up with a Scream homage that kind of twists the way that one plays out in an interesting way. There are so many different musical mic drops in it that everyone loves Stranger Things and the 80s movies, and I never had the nostalgia for it. Yes, I grew up in that decade, but in terms of the music and that kind of and the pop culture aspects of it, wasn't really my decade. I love the movies, but this though, it opens up with Closer by 9 Inch Nails.
Yep.
So we have that. We have More Human Than Human by Rob Zombie. We have some garbage thrown in there. We have some Pixies. We have some Black Hole Sun. I was waiting for Butthole Surfers to pop up. This is 90s alt rock Nirvana for me. And I was so happy with the musical aspects of it. The kills were actually really surprising and really gory. And it builds up the characters so well that there are some times at the very end when I wasn't expecting certain deaths to happen, and they were gruesome and they were mean, and I loved it. This worked 120%. The only qualm I have is there is a plot point towards the end of the third act, and I'm not going to talk about it because obviously spoilers, but it's very problematic.
Okay.
And it really bothered me to the point that, like, I almost feel like this needs to have kind of a content warning, maybe with overdosing. Like, there is a point in here that just really, I felt did not hit the note that they probably wanted it to hit.
Okay.
And it really bothered me.
Okay.
But one minor note of this entire movie, queer lead. Hello. Love that. Great. This movie's fun. I cannot wait to see where it's going to go in part 2 and 3.
I'm so excited. I'm looking now, and I don't think it's based on any one Fear Street book.
Okay. I figured it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm checking. I don't think they're like based on any one movie, or any one book. I think it's just like the conceit of them. And if it sounds, oh my God, and Lee Janiak is the director, and she directed Honeymoon, which is one of my favorite like indie horror movies. It's so good, and I'm so fucking glad that she's getting work and like in this way, like this kind of big 3-part Netflix thing. And could this be like with Freaky and then this? Could this be the rebirth of the slasher in the 2020s?
And is this also going to help us herald in maybe some 90s nostalgia? Because I am ready for some 90s nostalgia.
Well, and more teen horror. Like, could this also be like, now we're finally coming back to more teen horror? Because, I mean, Fear Street's for like, the books are for teenagers. Like, it was for the kids who read Goosebumps, who are now, like, older and want to read something that's a little bit more fucked up. Because Fear Street books were fucked up. Like, yes, they were for teenagers, but some of that shit was, like, gruesome. So...
And this definitely leans into the R rating. Like,
it's rated R.
Drops fuck. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of fucks. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of on-screen violence. There's some sexuality. There's a really adorable sequence where people start getting it on. Like, not like they start making out and one dude like reaches down like he's going to start jerking off. Like, there is some definite sexual moments, and this is actually really kind of adorable in a really weird way.
That. No, but I love that. Like, that just makes me so happy because I've been so cautiously optimistic about it for a lot of reasons, and I've heard a lot of really good things about it. So
it's just a lot of fun.
Excited.
I can't wait to hear what you think about it when you watch it, because it's a blast. I really hope that the next two are equally good. Because
I think they're all separate movies. It's 1994, 1978, and then
1666. But this movie kind of starts to establish the connections, and I feel like the characters in this, it's going to be, I think they're going to be involved in some way or another with the stories of the next two. Yeah, because
my favorite Fear Street books, sorry, I was like going off on a Fear Street tangent, but is Fear Street Saga, and it's a trilogy that takes place like in 3 different times. I don't think this is based on the exact Fear Street Saga, which is a trilogy, but that is like the history of Shadyside.
Okay.
And like, it's the first book starts in like the 1700s, about the beginning of the town.
Is it about a witch?
Yes.
Because the witch is in this. Like that's what this is about.
Okay, cool. So I need to, again, I've been like avoiding a lot of stuff because I didn't want to get spoiled. But if this is what I think it is, yeah, it's going to be based around that. And they'll all have connections that are really interesting. But basically, like, that trilogy explains why Shadyside is so fucked.
That seems to be what they're going for with this. What was that?
Thunder.
Is that thunder?
Did you see the lightning?
No, I didn't see the lightning.
Yeah, that was thunder. Well, the thunderstorm that was coming today.
I thought it was just a really loud train.
Nope, that's thunder, baby. Thunder. It has been hot as fucking balls here, so I'm not surprised that it is thunderstorming.
Lord.
It is. I know it's been hot everywhere.
Same.
I know that it's been really hot, but Jesus Christ.
Thank you, global warming.
But yeah, I am just so excited. I'm so glad to hear that from you. I'm so excited to watch it, and I'm just excited that.
Well, hopefully you can watch it before we record next week. So that, like, because I'm curious to hear what a Fear Street disciple has to say about it. Because again, I know nothing. I know nothing Jon Snow.
What I think, from what I can tell, and again, people can tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like it's like nostalgic, but also seems to be okay to watch if you aren't as familiar with Fear Street. Like, because the thing with Fear Street.
Perfectly was fine with it.
Well, the thing with Fear Street too is that, like, from what I remember, it's like there are a ton of books, but in the same place, but they're not the same characters necessarily. Mm-hmm. So like, a lot of them are one-offs. So like if you didn't read one, you could read the others. Like I didn't read them in order. So I think that's a good thing about Fear Street too, is like it's more the vibe of Fear Street rather than like your continuity or like people. Some of them are like little trilogies and like collections, but a lot of it is just like Goosebumps. Like you don't have to be familiar with every single one of them. Just so excited.
It was a blast.
Yay!
And for a 90s nerd like me, it was like pump that shit into my vein.
Fuck
I
yeah.
was so happy for it. Okay, so I want to hear about some of these festival faves.
So Chattanooga Film Fest was last weekend, and I covered it for Daily Grindhouse. I still have to write. Don't look at me. But I saw some really awesome movies. Chattanooga always delivers like some fucking awesome gems that I have never heard of. And once again this year, so like last year it was like the Beach House and the Lansing Mare. So this year there was some good stuff too. So the one that I really want to shout out is called Dimland, which I know that you watched as well.
I watched because you talked about it and raved about it, and I was like, fine, I'm just gonna drop, not covering the festival, I'm just gonna drop money and I'm gonna watch this movie.
It is, the way I describe it is millennial ennui meets Spirited Away, or like a Miyazaki movie. It's got this like pervasive sadness about growing up and leaving behind your childhood, while also adding this very whimsical aspect to it of like escapism. So this young woman is like depressed, like let's just say what it is. She's depressed, and she and her boyfriend go to a family's like old cabin, and she's really upset because the cabin has been renovated, and it has this like idea of like, oh, you like kind of have changed all my memories. Like I can't believe it. And then her imaginary friend shows up. His name is, what the fuck?
Rue.
Yes. His name is Rue, and he is a person, or he looks like a person, but then he's wearing this mask, this like very round, like oval shaped white wooden mask that it kind of looks like No Face-ish from Spirited Away. It's very simple. It's got like a long nose, eyes, and
He also kind of looks like an owl.
It does. It looks like a barn owl too. So he is a very soft-spoken woodland spirit, and he's very sweet. And it is just a very sweet, lovely, sad movie that just like made my heart very happy and sad at the same time. And it is just absolutely delightful. Like, it's just great. It's just great. And it's like, it takes the feeling of a Miyazaki movie and puts it into a more like realistic context and like a live action context, which I've never seen before. And I just feel like it captures that kind of vibe very well. And it was my favorite of the festival. It surprised the hell out of me, and I'm so glad you liked it. And I think this movie is going to get a lot of hype. I think once it like, because I got a lot of hype out of the festival. A lot of people I know liked it. It's like it's very different than what you think for a genre festival. It's not gory. It's not like super unnatural. It's not really scary, but it shows you the side of the horror genre that is so beautiful at tapping into anxieties and like fears that are a little bit more existential about like your life and portraying them in a very gentle way. I don't know. It's just incredible.
I don't really have anything to add to that. I like.
I really liked it. If you can't tell.
Well, you are. I mean, and you're bringing out references that, like, once you say it, it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I never even really thought about it. I never, until you mentioned it, thought about it in terms of Miyazaki. I never, but it makes perfect sense that you say that. It was a movie that I was captivated, and I'm glad that I was not covering the fest, because I was like, I don't know how to review this film, because I just sat there entranced the entire time. That like
I cried.
It's a very emotional movie, and it doesn't have the most I hate to use the word logical. It's not about plot so much as about evoking emotions. And the closest thing I could think of in terms of a movie that I've seen recently, and it's completely different from this, so don't go in thinking you're going to see this movie, but it was Starfish. Like, just the way that movie taps into sort of depression, sort of like being more about giving the audience an emotional release or an emotional experience, less than a plot experience. Yeah. And I felt about this one. This one is much more gentle and much more ennui. I love that idea. And much more Miyazaki. Yes, completely. But it gave me that same kind of feeling that I did watching Starfish. Is like, I don't know how I would review this, and I don't really know how to like dissect it in terms of plot, but in terms of what it made me feel all those emotions that you talked about and more. It's a real special movie for me.
Yeah, and it's got a really good like lo-fi hip hop soundtrack that like really fits the vibe. And yeah, so this better get distribution soon. I'll distribute it my goddamn self.
Yeah.
But that was obviously like my standout favorite. But I also watched The Old Ways, which you've seen already.
We talked about,
Panic Fest?
Yep.
You talked about it from Panic Fest.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched it, and holy fucking hell, what a good creepy ass movie. Like this movie really freaked me out. Like it's actually like I turned off the lights for this one, had my headphones on. Like it was pretty creepy. Another really like I am so happy that like all of these movies are starting to come out about like exorcisms and religious horror that aren't about Catholicism, because this is very much The Old Ways. So like a Mexican American journalist goes to her hometown, and I don't even like it's just I don't want to give anything away. Like I know we talked about it a little bit, but basically she's told that she is possessed by a demon and that she needs to be have the demon exorcised from her, but not like the Catholicism way, but the old ways. So there's a very long ritual that goes along with it, and it is so good the way like the mythology builds and like the kind of progression of the characters. So that was a banger. And
stylish as hell too. Single location, but stylish as hell. Just like it looked.
Yes,
it looked expensive.
It looked expensive, and the way that they were able to like make the space look bigger than it was a lot of the time, and like really play, because like a lot of it was in one room, but they play with the space in a really cool way that makes it feel different and not like you're seeing the same shit over and over again. Like especially with the way they progress the movie and like what progresses with her relationships with the people that she's with, which I really am fascinated with how like these relationships develop between all of the people involved, and how the tone changes in the movie like halfway through in a good way. And it's really cool to see that because you don't see that in possession movies. So that one is one to really look out for, especially if y'all like possession films. Like this one is something really cool, something different that gives you that vibe, but in a whole new context and in a whole new way. So that's very exciting. And then the last one I want to talk about is events transpiring before, during, and after a high school basketball game, which I did not think I would. I did not understand why it was at Chattanooga. Like, it's not a horror movie, but it is fucking hysterical. Like, it is just about a bunch of fucking high school weirdos, and like nothing like out of the ordinary really happens. Like everything that happens in this movie feels like something that could probably take place in a high school, and like you've met people like this before. So it involves a basketball team who's really bad, and they're all a bunch of nerds, and their assistant coach who's really into the triangle offense, that he like reads a book about basketball and like wants them to do this like very complicated offense. A referee whose Lhasa Apso has osteoporosis, and a group of 4 students who are in a like experimental theater group that they made themselves, and they're trying to make a message about the controlling nature of the patriarchy, and their voices are being stifled by the administration because they want to make a puppet of one of the administrators hanging from a noose in their adaptation of King Lear. It is incredible. Like, it is so lo-fi and silly, but the jokes are so funny. Everything is so dry, and just like the way it all resolves is just like, there isn't like a huge climax, but it all makes sense. Like it gets me like Napoleon Dynamite Juno vibes a little bit, but just like if you need like a point of reference for it, like that kind of dry humor, more like Napoleon Dynamite, but a little less weird, like a little less weird. But it is a gem. Like it's a fucking gem. It's just so cute and silly, and like I didn't know how much I needed something like that. It was just the longest name, but it is so fun.
I wanted to see that. I just didn't have time this weekend to like catch it, but I've heard good things, so I was glad to hear that you really enjoyed it.
And it's really cool because the camera, like when a scene is being shot, the camera never moves. It's all like vignettes, it looks like. It's never just like they're not moving around following characters. It's like the camera is static and everything is unfolding in front of the camera. So like it cuts a lot to different places in the high school, but it's cool the way it's filmed in a more like lo-fi way. So And then I want to talk about Candisha and another, because Candisha's coming out soon on Shudder. So I want to talk about that when it closer to when it comes out on Shudder.
Cool. And I have a screener for that, so maybe we can talk about that together.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. It's worth watching, I will say now, but I want to talk more about it at a closer to release.
Cool.
So yeah, I watched a lot of movies this weekend. It was great. I was very happy with what I saw. So not everything was amazing, but most of it, all of it was impressive. Movies are cool. I like movies.
Movies are rad.
Movies are cool.
This car outside my house is not cool.
But let's talk about some abs.
Mary Beth, back in 2002,
Okay.
closeted Terry, 21,
Okay.
saw Van Wilder, fell instantly in love with an actor
Okay.
by the name of Ryan Reynolds.
I get it.
He was so cute in that.
Mhm.
He had a nice butt. There's a moment where he poses nude for an art class, and I was like, I love this dude. I will watch whatever he's in.
Mhm.
And then he popped up again in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, and a bit part as a male nurse, and I was like, oh, it's the love of my life. He just doesn't know it yet. And then that same year, he decides to shed a bunch of weight and turn into Hannibal King in Blade Trinity. And I was like, this dude is hot.
I fucking forgot he was in Blade Trinity.
And then a year later, I hear that he is going to be in a remake of the Amityville Horror. And I see some of the trailers for it. And all I see are abs that go from his little itty bitty waist all the way up to his eyes, pretty much. It's just like ab.
How?
And rewatching this movie in the year 2021, I realized that I think I was led astray by abs, Mary Beth, because this movie is not what I remembered it being, and I did not like it, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
How do I follow that up? That beautiful introduction about
You're welcome.
Ryan Reynolds. You rolled out the abs, the ab
Sure
carpet.
did.
So I liked this movie to a point. I was like, all right,
Okay.
it's 2005. I'm vibing. There's some good scares in it. Better than the original. Sorry, everybody, but I was more thinking of the original, and this one had some cool scares in it. And then the last 30 minutes, I was like, oh no, oh, you really let it go. The end is so bad. It had me Googling, is this what is this? And I fell into a hole about this movie's mythology. Holy shit. But yeah, I didn't. So it has Ryan Reynolds, but it also has Melissa George, who is Stella in 30 Days of Night. And everyone knows how I feel about that movie. And she's also in Triangle, which I still haven't seen, but it's the weird time movie on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I love her. She had a moment in that time period where she was horror sweetheart Melissa George. And I was excited to see her again because I haven't seen her in a while. And also Chloe Grace Moritz is
Oh my God.
I did not know that. It was her. She's the little daughter, Chelsea. She's so small.
I know. So fucking small. I was like, oh,
I know.
I didn't realize this was you in this, and you were such a little baby.
But yeah, so I was vibing with it. It's a little cheesy, but I didn't mind it. And again, I thought the scares were pretty interesting at some points. The little girl putting the babysitter's finger in her bullet wound, that was pretty rad. Oh,
that was the best part of the movie. The best non-abs part of the movie.
More of that. But then it got to the end with they made this whole mythology up that is not real.
Not
and
real.
That really was so cheesy. And it relied on this whole pain and murder of indigenous peoples.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not even remotely anything that happened in the actual story. And I know we can romanticize and change things, but this complete fabrication of a massacre and torture of indigenous people at the hands of an occult priest, it's just it was only about exploiting pain, pain of indigenous peoples than anything else. It just didn't make sense. It was so dumb. And it just was this was not the choice you had to make here. This was not appropriate. That was my big thought. I was like, why the fuck is this where it went? You had it all laid out in front of you. They gave you had the story. You didn't have to really change anything. And yet, here we are. Fuck. I was so mad. I was so mad.
Yeah. I'm looking back at my notes that I took for this as I was watching it, and I guess I still was lusting over Ryan Reynolds in this because my notes were like, "You can murder me, Ryan Reynolds."
Okay.
I wrote, "He has good dick energy." I don't know why I said good dick energy, but apparently he has good dick energy. As I was watching a scene where he was when he was going down to the basement to put wood in the fire, his shirt was halfway open and he was hunched over a bit to not hit his head. It just like felt really sexual to me. This whole movie sexualizes him in ways that typical movies sexualize the female body. We even get a bath scene in this.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was thinking about the bath scene and how you never see a guy in a bath scene. It's always the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of love that.
And he's shirtless through a lot of it. The camera loves his body, obviously. Melissa George can't keep her hands off of him, which, again, girls same. But there's this scene where, like, they're walking up into the house, and she just, like, grabs a hold of his ass as if, like, yep, this is mine. And I'm like, yes, own that ass. Yeah, so that's, like, all I got from it.
Yeah, and, like... I think something I was thinking about was like the design of the house is way bigger and much grander than I think the actual house is.
Oh, yes. And I actually did have a note that wasn't about sexuality. This movie is set in the 70s, but it does not feel like a 70s movie.
No. Yes. 100%.
I was watching this going, wait, is this set in the 70s? Because none of this feels like a movie set in the 70s. And I think that this appreciation for this movie might be ruined because The Conjuring came out and that was about a movie set in the 70s and it felt like it was actually about people in the 70s, whereas this feels like it's the 70s, but really it's modern day, early 2000s.
Like, she's wearing a pattern.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it was actually a movie set in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Also, Ronald DeFeo died in 2021.
He did in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
March.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some research on this because I was curious. So John Ketchum is like the villain of this movie and the priest, and I was like, is he real? Like I was curious, and I really did in a hole about the area and on truelegends.info about this. And one of the subheadings is lots of claims of demons area. And apparently this area in Amityville, this area is known as the Devil's Quadrangle, and basically somehow links the Son of Sam murders to this.
And talks about this John Ketchum as if he's a real person when there was a John Ketchum, but he was an Indiana surveyor and had nothing to do with the Salem trials or Amityville or anything like that. Nope. He was just a surveyor in the 1900s. Yep. But
this person just really goes deep into how somehow Amityville, there actually was a crazy priest, and then there were some other murders, and the Son of Sam are all linked together, and also it's the Devil's Quadrangle.
I loved reading that when you said, and I was like reading that going, what?
Like, Terry, please read.
What am I reading?
You have to read this because I don't know what the fuck I'm reading. Because I just wanted more information about how the Warrens were involved with Amityville. Because there's not a lot of info. Like, they investigated it, but there isn't. I mean, this is a very preliminary Google search. Like, I didn't go that deep, but they didn't have a lot to say about their involvement as they had in like other cases, like with Annabelle. So it was interesting. It didn't seem like they had as much to do with this, but also the original case was like supposedly mostly a hoax. Mm-hmm. But then also, George Lutz also is into the occult apparently, and like it's weird. I was like, I want more of him being into the occult. Like, why did we lean into that part? Like, that would have been cool as shit to have him like. I want to see Ryan Reynolds doing some weird occult shit in their basement. Like, that would have been great. But yeah,
sacrifice me. I'll be a virgin.
Sacrifice me, Daddy.
Yes, Daddy. Yes.
But yeah, so I mean, like, I liked it to a point. I enjoyed it to a point, and then I was like, ugh, God, you really just fucked up that ending so bad.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'm glad we've kind of left in the early 2000s is that kind of frenetic editing style that because this movie didn't have it as much as, like, say, 13 Ghosts, but it was still there to the point that I'm like,
We don't need.
thank God this isn't a thing we don't have anymore, because
We don't need that weird
Girl.
glitchy edit. It's so bad. Like, why?
why did we
Why
think
did
that
we
was
think
good?
Why did we think we were doing something with that? It just looks like shit.
It doesn't look
It
good.
just does not look good. Oh, I still love that one where she puts her finger in the girl's the bullet hole. That was.
I mean, that was the
cool
best
as shit.
part.
I wish there was
I
more
took-
of that shit. Like that was
one
cool.
of my few non-Ryan Reynolds deep
But
cut.
also, she rolls up in a crop top and is smoking a bong out of her. So, like, the shirt was funny, but the fact that she pulls a bong out of her purse, I'm like, girl, you're carrying a whole ass bong in your purse and you're not dumping out the water. Like, you are asking for problems. Also, bongs smell like shit. Like, everyone can smell it. Whatever. I was just like, that whole thing,
70s.
like, logistically makes no sense, like, at all. But
But we're in the 70s.
that doesn't mean that you just carry a bong around in your purse, or maybe it
70s.
does.
70s.
Sorry.
That's how you know we're in the
That's
70s,
true.
Mary
Bongs,
Beth.
just bongs everywhere.
That's about
bongs. 70s mean bongs.
it.
On that note, Terry,
Yeah.
who are we talking to on Monday?
We're talking with Justin Nordell. He is the executive director of the Folk Song Society. He was formerly of the Philly Film Society. He also worked at Funimation. When you start meeting people on Twitter and you realize what kind of amazing and bonkers careers they have, this is one of those people.
Yeah.
And we're talking to him about Tremors.
Oh my god, it's amazing. Like that, his enthusiasm for Tremors is incredible, and like his story about Tremors is incredible. So
it's so funny.
Yeah,
not for him, but it's funny for me.
It's funny now when you're an adult and you're hearing his pain. But yeah.
Okay. And oh boy. So what are we watching for next week's Little Cuts?
Oh god. We're gonna do it, y'all. I guess we're gonna watch the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Duck. I have not seen this for a plethora of reasons, mostly Twitter telling me it's not worth it, but we're gonna watch it. But yeah, I get to experience this Freddy who looks like shit.
I mean, okay, I will see what I think now rewatching this, because I again have not seen this since the movie theater. But I actually didn't mind the Freddy makeup, but maybe I had blinders on because or maybe I was just so focused on trying to find something good because, well, we'll get to that.
Oh, Jackie Earl Haley, I'm so sorry, dude. I like you too. You're a good actor. But yeah, so y'all, you've heard
We have to do it.
we have to do it. And we're talking about Oz remake, so we have to do it. Anyway, y'all, you've heard from us, so you want to hear from you. Did you watch a film that we watched this week and have thoughts? Do you have suggestions for what we should talk about? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Please, it's Pride Month might be over, but Pride Month is really Pride year.
We're now into Pride Wrath.
Or Pride Wrath.
And
Or Wrath.
you don't
Okay.
want to have us angry at you.
It's true. Anyway, thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Oh, somebody please think of the children. Somebody please think of the children. Somebody please think of the children.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is the briefing room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.